They say the third generation of a family business burns it to the ground. But is that really true? India is an economy built on and by family businesses. We're not just talking about mom and pop stores. Tatas, Ambanis, Birlas, they're all family businesses with global repute. And there are some common problems that all of them face in their first two generations. And to understand the best practices on how families should resolve their personal issues, I decided to meet with Janmay.
Hi Sarthak, such a pleasure.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to meet you.
He's the chairman of BCG India and has been advising some of the most coveted family businesses across industries and geographies for decades. We discuss everything from designing of family charter documents, succession planning, ownership structures, and how both children and parents should behave with each other in a family enterprise. This is Founder's Office with Sarthak Ahuja.
I want to today touch upon a number of things. Starting off with, India has so many family businesses where parents feel that my child does not feel incentivized to join this business, and they think that they would be better off taking up a job in an MNC where the title is bigger, but what they don't realize is that what they'll earn in the business is going to be much bigger than the salary that they're drawing. But the child doesn't see respect or value in working for the business, or feels there's a cap, or don't feel interested enough. Then succession planning is a big thing. How do parents give control to their children to actually come in and take on those roles and be able to take initiative? Because so many of them would say, I want to work, but my father wouldn't give me the power to take the decisions that I want to take. I'd say let's begin with, what are the problems that you see in family businesses which are most common across? If you had to take on a client, you would say it has to be one of these 5 things, and I know where to begin.
So nowadays I'm reasonably popular with family businesses. And one of the reasons I think I'm reasonably popular is because I always tell them that the solution to their family will have to be bespoke to them. Because
Right.
these origins of the problems can be anticipated. The solutions of the problem have to be customized to a specific family context. See, typically family businesses begin by what I call a Superman entrepreneur. And forgive me, I'm saying Superman because most of these guys were men. So I can't say Superwoman entrepreneur because there haven't been so many of them. So this is a factual statement, not a gender bias.
Sure.
When would you have been a Superman entrepreneur? One of 4 situations. Either you didn't get a job, so you have to do something to earn a living.
Sure.
So you're going to do it. Secondly, you are a part of a family business, maybe a kirana store or something, and you feel you can do better. Yeah, this I'm not going to do. This is rubbish. I can do something better. Third is that you have a passionate idea and you are going to make that happen. Fourth is those who are working in a place, in an MNC, in another person's company, and say, shit it, I don't want to work for you. I will do it myself. So this is the core origin of a Superman entrepreneur. People will be saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And a Superman entrepreneur is saying, no, I will do it, I will do it, I will do it. And he will fail the first time, he will fail the second time. And everyone else is more convinced that he is a super loser. But he continues. And then when he succeeds, a certain personality develops. They are 24/7, 365 days a year doing their business. No Superman entrepreneur understands these terms like work-life balance. You'll say, first I'll work, then I'll get a life, then we'll discuss balance. All that is crap. I have to work. I have to get this shit done. And they want the whole family to be working, and they want their kids to understand, what. Now, the kids are not growing up in their context.
Yeah.
They're growing up much more affluent. The kids get along fabulously with Superman entrepreneurs when they are as driven. But if the kid is just like a normal kid, there are some tensions that get built. Because there is a disappointment, will this person take it forward, etc.
Or maybe the child has grown up with so much affluence that they never had to strive as much to achieve what the father had
So
to.
all of these are true. Some of them don't have that hunger. Some of them, because they have achieved, want to outdo their parent. So they are different types, and a lot of this relates to the emotional context in which they are growing. If there are two siblings and one feels that the other one is preferred, then there is, of course, the seeds of a very major conflict being sown by the family unknown to them, which is never going to go away. These emotional tensions where you feel unjustly treated, where you feel discriminated against, where you feel hurt, those causes cause fights, conflicts,
Take the
become
family apart.
disruptive. Yeah. And then where do they show up? They'll show up in an ownership fight. I want this business, you want that business. I want more money, I want less money. I want more shares, less shares. I disagree with your business idea. I want a different. Those are all manifestations of a different problem.
Hmm.
Then the way they run a business also causes a lot of stress. Many of these Superman entrepreneurs know every widget, everything on their shop floor. The son has gone and studied at Yale and done an MBA from Harvard and comes back and says, why the shit should I do that?
Yeah.
This is not the way you do business. And the father will say, अब ये हमको business सिखाने आए हैं. हमने business खड़ा कर दिया. And now this young man is going to come and explain to me how to run a business. So if you look at these soft issues which can tear a family apart, the first is when there is this lack of trust, erosion, disrespect. The second is a convention. Now, the family convention is that women don't come into the business. Now there is chaos. What do I do? Do I get my daughter in? Should I not? Should I change the rules? And just now imagine the complexity if there is another brother. Then there is a value issue. One wants to be low profile, one wants to be high profile, one believes in environment, one doesn't, there are a bunch of issues that come in. Then you have different life experiences. One lives in Indore, the other one lives in New Jersey.
They can't relate.
They can't relate.
Yeah.
And there are many areas where families can have good reasons to fight. You will fight on who gets which house. You can fight on who gets which business. You can fight on who gets what position. Those at least you can justify that there is a difference of opinion. Many times that is coming because of something underlying. Because why can't two reasonable people have a reasonable discussion on issues which you can have good ways to answer? So, the question that you had asked was, how does the next generation get prepared? There is no one answer. It depends on the patriarch, it depends on the child. The cultural norms also evolve. The more east you go, the more social norms there were. Think of the Japanese, think of the Koreans, then think of the Indians. We were all family, village, we come from my village, we have to take care.
Sense of
And
belongingness to a
correct.
community.
You go west, young man, go west in the US. The west, the person went, it was all individualism. So we are sending people to study and they are learning individualism. One of the patriarchs once said something which he said, to run a business is easy. To run a family is hard. But to run a family business is the hardest thing of all.
So I'm definitely going to come to the fact when people decide to sell off their companies because they feel the children are not interested. And I wouldn't even say when you're at a retirement age or something. I've seen younger people where the families have sold off the businesses. They've made so much money, but then so many of the family members deal with an identity crisis, saying, what am I really doing with my life and what's next? And they've never known anything else because the business just came into their lap and they had to build. But even before we get to those points, do you think if all the problems that you mentioned are arising from a communication gap between parties, a charter document at least becomes one way for an external consultant to bring all stakeholders together and start writing it down so that people start voicing it and then you can plug them? Is that the purpose it serves, or am I understanding it incorrect?
See, look, I know of a family that has a 192-page family constitution.
Okay.
I know of another family which has no page, no constitution. So I was asking this other family, this brother, I said, कि आपका कुछ constitution document वगैरह नहीं है? He said, नहीं है, मैं और मेरे भाई के पास, we have 4 kids totally. लोग साल में एक बार छुट्टी पे जाते हैं, सबको हम बताते हैं कि you all are bloody lucky. हम ये constitution वगैरह नहीं लिखने वाले. You can decide to make your luck grow or you can wither it away. मेरे लाइफ में तो हम लोग नहीं होने देंगे, अपने लाइफ में जो करना है करो.
But such people, do you think if some child decides to let go of the opportunity and decides to wither it away, do you think it's going to pinch the father, saying that?
So the father there has said, I have not even let them come in. I have given them each 5 crores and said कि अपना पहले तो धक्के खा के आओ, देखें कि whether you are काबिल. You will have enough money to live your life, but you're not going to come and destroy my business unless you earn the right.
So would you recommend that for every person, when they have to let the second generation come in, first let them make their mistakes, go out, tell them this is not for you, because only then will they realize how much money is at stake when they come back?
Firstly, there are many emotions. Families have ego. Some big families don't want their children to work for anyone else. उनका ego है कि why should this name just go and work anywhere? Some of them insist that the kid works outside before they can come in. Some of them want their kid to start at the bottom and rise. Some of them bring their kids at the... I have looked at across all of these. I haven't been able to find the right. You know, people have succeeded across all, people have failed across all. You know, I mean, so it's tough to say. Whenever a patriarch is saying every day, I want to retire, I want the next generation to come in, you should not believe it.
Then why do they say it?
Because they feel society expects them to retire at that stage. So they preempt everyone by saying, I want to retire. And if the next gen is smart, they will not tell them to retire. What they will tell them to do, you have a bigger thing to do now.
Give them a bigger problem to solve than wealth creation.
Yeah, because that's already taken care of.
Yeah.
But for that also, you need to uncover their real interest. You know, you're so young, Sarthak, you won't know. When in 1982, when I started working, the retirement age in India was 58. You know what life expectancy was? 54.
Really? Oh, I had no idea.
In fact, life expectancy in India in 2000 became 60. And that year, Vajpayee made the retirement age 60. So, you know what, when I would go attend an RBI retirement party, you knew who was retiring. The guy looked old. Within 5 years, the guy would die. So, there wasn't really... Now, people live till 80, 90.
So, to this, I can easily relate it to a lot of families where there are fathers, patriarchs, built the business, several hundred crores. The son is equally willing to come in and wants to contribute. Now says they don't give me the free reign or the power to take certain decisions of maybe I want to put in an ERP system or
So
use
you,
AI to do this.
you
Do you think there's a hack?
I
Do you think there's a way?
I always ask them, so you had joined another company. Would you have got all those rights? See, the problem is, I tell the next generation, go for the outcome you want. Don't tell me the big victim you are.
Hmm.
If you want your dad to do something, plan it. How will you get that done?
Find out ways to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why is it such a, oh my God, he did this again, he shut me up in front of his friends. He said, shut up, देखो ये fool को कुछ सीख नहीं रहा है. As if he had joined, Microsoft and he'd be allowed to do it.
Ask for forgiveness after you've done it rather than permission.
Or that too, but also use skill. Oh, mama, my daddy has really been bad again. Come on, yeah. Look at the outcome you seek. Try and get it.
That they have to earn the right. They have to figure out how to be smart.
You have to figure out exactly.
That's your training. Otherwise, there's enough politics even in a multinational anywhere you work.
Every place.
But another big issue that we look at in family businesses is that the value of the asset or the company is huge. Money, because of debt, because of leverage, all the cash flow is getting used to repay the debt and service it. And then the family members feel, despite all this wealth, if I want to buy a house, I don't have the money to buy it for my own self, because the father will say, we have a big family house, we all live together, and see, the cash is going towards servicing the debt. And then even from a salary or remuneration perspective, they would feel, oh, people who are employees of the business in top management are getting higher salaries than we are getting as owners themselves. So all of this is a sham. When it will come to us is when the father retires. He is in no mood to retire. So we're also unable to enjoy the fruits of this business, where salary distribution and remuneration to keep people incentivized is another issue. Have you seen ways to solve that, where it's not a person problem, it's ideally like a finance problem?
Firstly, 95% of the wealth of all family businesses is in the business. It doesn't matter whether you are the Ambanis or the Adanis or whoever.
Correct.
95% of your wealth is your business. And as you go down that pecking order, the top 500 companies, the next 500, when you go below the top 1000, top 2000, 1200 companies, then there could be liquidity constraints. If you are in the top echelons,
then there's no problem.
Education is taken care of, healthcare is taken care of, houses are taken care of, there's a bunch of shit that's taken care of. You must have what will be the dividends that the company will offer. If you want to leave, give up your shares and exit, what will be the holdco discount? Will you be able to sell in the market? How do you exit? What roles are available at what age? What qualifications allow you to get those roles? Can you, so there are a set of 8 or 10 questions which you must have some degree of understanding around. If you are a family business.
Because most of them would think the question of buying out your stake is not even an option, because we never thought that would happen.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's now a necessity.
You should.
It's a brutal reality you have to come to terms with.
And the other thing is, I will ask them, who is the family? I said, is your wife family? So he said, what kind of a question is that? I said, I mean it. Is your son, is your daughter, is your son-in-law, is your daughter-in-law? And he said, oh, okay, I understand. Is it bloodlines?
Sister married elsewhere?
Yeah, and if they've also got a business, it starts to get complicated, right? Then does the family agree that the person who creates the value captures any of it, or is it equally shared? Does he do it for the family, or does he do it for himself? These are very profound questions. So there are the emotional issues. Then there are these which I call ownership issues. We've not even talked about what all companies spend all their time on. So A family assembly is all trying to explain to a family that you are only worth your ownership. Psychs them out. In one family now, which is in the subsequent generations, one very senior member has very little share. I'm saying to him, आप बड़ा छोटे owner.
And
And
in their minds, their identity is completely tied to the
completely.
business.
And his nephew who's done nothing is got 11%.
But this realization, for example, if you give this realization to someone, what are you aiming to achieve? Are you aiming to diffuse an ego where they can look at it from a macro perspective and consider all other stakeholders because they're too consumed by the identity tied to the business?
So, the basic purpose, whenever I deal with family businesses, I don't want them to have disruptive fights. I don't mind them splitting. I would love for them to stay together harmoniously, but I don't want them to stay together non harmoniously. And most of all, I don't want them to have a disruptive fight. And if you can't get into the head of the patriarch, you have to deal with this differently because this will end up badly.
Yeah.
The ability to have these conversations nicely is really important for the family and for their advisors. So that is first you have the family assembly with everyone who has real ownership has to be there. They should select a family council to represent them, to make it a decision-making body of
Yeah.
reasonable
Three,
size.
5 people.
Those people have to decide whether they get some independent people in there or not.
Sure.
Because think of another thing. The family owns, say, 40% or 50% stake in a business. Their 50% has only got meaning when it votes together in the board of meeting.
Absolutely.
So if they fight,
They're all minority.
so they have to have a forum for them to consider very seriously whether they want some independent people outside to join them. Because supposing it's 5 members and it's a majority vote, if the 3 start voting together, the 2 start voting together, it will not be sustainable. It has to be issue based, otherwise, it's not working well. So you need to create some strength. Then you need to decide the issues that, because you want to have a singular vote in the board, which is the only meaningful body. This body doesn't really count very much.
Yeah.
It's because SEBI has decided that only the board counts.
Sure.
So you need to know that. So then, depending on your size, either you just have a council. The council also you decide, whether you have internal, external. Then you need to know the issues which have to be discussed. Debt over a certain amount, capex. Will this be discussed? Will you be willing to? What is the level of free cash flow you need? Some of these discussions are real. Yeah, you can't miss them. You have to have them. And what is fair if somebody wants to exit?
To this, I'm thinking, and I've seen this closely recently as well, where someone would say, I want to exit, and say the patriarch or the matriarch would say, I'm still alive. And there is no exit and there is no distribution till the time I'm part of this family. Do you think it's fair for such rules to come in, or it's this emotional attachment of your identity to a family business that really leads to it losing competitive advantage compared to competition, because the competition doesn't have these, it may have its own emotional aspects and politics, but it doesn't have these identities superimposed on the business where they're probably a little more rational.
Let's do some myth destruction.
Sure.
If I have created a business, what right does my son have? See, if I create something, if it's my house, it's my car, I can do damn well what I want with it.
Absolutely.
And the children don't really have rights. They may have expectations, but they don't have rights.
Hmm.
And then as the generations go on, there are conventions, but there is real power, and those power can be exercised. You may be unhappy based on your convention in how that power was exercised.
Wow, that's so deep. I'm just thinking how people try to use laws under, say, the Hindu Succession Act to say that if my parents have these many shares in a private limited entity, as part of succession, this much should come to me if there is no will written to the contrary, and they kind of superimpose those.
The truth is what the law supports. Everything else is expectation.
Yeah.
You can be disappointed,
But
but it was not your right.
that's right. But tell me something, doesn't this further go into proving the fact that there's a lot more megalomania in family businesses, which will also lead to their downfall?
non-family business megalomania? You're sitting in India. I mean, oh my God.
No, but I understand that we don't live in an ideal world. What I'm saying is that, do you think from a statistical perspective, non-family businesses, and let's remove exceptions of the power law of the top 1 or 2%, which have also probably inherited it in India, but for the general masses, do you think there's a larger proportion of winning in business if you're professionalized than being a family business?
You know, in business, one of the most important success factors is speed of decision making. Right? I mean, agility, speed of decision making, and curbing bureaucracy. That's like critical. If you were talented and as an owner, you will do much better than as a CEO of a private limited company when you're not an owner. You have to answer to your board, you have to do this, audit committee, this, that. Duniya bhar ka. If you're an owner, you can just do it and you will move fast. And you just see the speed of that decision making, it's electrifying. Now, you asked a very good question. Should businesses professionalize? What does professionalize mean?
May I?
Yeah.
I would think a lot of people who are running family businesses, because of underlying emotional issues, it's rational decision making not being prioritized over personal fundamental family problems. And when family problems begin to supersede business decisions, what happens is your competitors look at that as an opportunity to go up. And when professionals may come in, while they may understand that the big boss has to give me a final signature, they may think in a more, I would assume, in a more rational manner from a business metrics and objectives perspective. Is that understanding incorrect?
So, I will say the first part of what you said, 100% agree with. That if there is a family tension and that tension seeps into the business will do badly, without a doubt.
And the second is also, which I didn't
The
cover, is a
second-
skills issue.
Yeah.
It's also a
So
skills
let us
issue.
come to the skills issue. But that's a separate issue. Let me
Yeah,
come
skills
to
is a
that.
separate issue, but okay, on the first one.
If you brought a professional into a situation, that same situation, where the ownership is with the family and there is a lot of discord within that family, the professional will be a disaster. Oh, bada babu ne ye bola, chota babu ne ye socha, oh. Then go.
Relatable.
Completely bullshit. No chance. So that's not going to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the other thing is skill issue. The biggest skill we need is courage and imagination. And the worst impediment we have is experience. Experience tells me 2 trillion, 1 trillion, 1.5 trillion. I cannot visualize. If I talk to the system leader right now in India and say by 2030 we should be 400 partners, he will start shitting bricks. Because we have grown at more than 20% for more than 20 years.
Really?
Yeah,
I know BCG numbers are not out there in the
yeah,
open, so
I'm
I
telling you.
wouldn't know.
But the point is, should we now grow at 40%? How do you think about that? Somebody will be filling that space, not we or our competitors. Somebody will be doing that work. It's not possible, it's not being done.
AI could be doing that work, which would,
Some of it,
yeah,
sure. But I'm just telling you, see, whenever people start criticizing family businesses don't last 3 generations, family business don't do this, I just keep asking, can you please give me the counterfactual? Can you please give me the counterfactual? Do normal private companies last 60 years, 90 years?
very few examples.
Very few. So, when family businesses at least last 1 generation, that's 30 years. If they last 2 generations, that's 60 years. And then many of them go beyond. So, I'm just saying, these are questions that require deep introspection. The biggest challenge for family owned companies, for non family owned companies today is talent. Talent with autonomy and talent which the leadership trusts. If I hire 20 partners from outside, what is my first problem?
Culture fit.
But exactly, but even prior to culture, how many people admit that my
Ownership from outside.
first problem is trust?
Yeah.
I don't know, the guy may go and bribe somebody. Arey baap re baap, we'll have a complete chaos in our whole value system.
Yeah.
So trust is very important.
So I'm thinking that if you were to evaluate all the big family businesses in India that have continued to disrupt their industry, their competition, and the newer generation has come in, has continued to be incentivized and create more. Do you think it flows from a value system of teaching disruption, of teaching innovation? Like what I'm trying to distill through this conversation is no matter who is in a family business, what are some solid takeaways they can take that we figured with regardless of individual behavioral issues and emotional issues, is there something that you can do to your child or maybe to yourself? One, I would assume, do not expect your child to continue to have the same passion for your business as you do. Maybe give them the freedom to figure out what they want to do, set them free. Maybe they'll go around in the market for 5 6 years and realize this is the best use of their time and to create wealth, and they may come back. That also takes a certain sense of maturity and emotional, not putting that expectation on your child to let them take that decision. That could be one. Second could be from a when you raise them from a value system perspective, what do you see as a learning where you may be taking examples of I've seen this family do this really well, and when I talk to other businesses I say you should really take this and try and implement this, what this family has done. I think it's amazing. Do you see such case studies which others could take learnings from?
Look, I was just, as you were asking me the question, I was going through the families which are in the fourth, fifth generation, across. Structurally, I will say that the one family that truly stands out are the Tatas. If you go to Jamshedpur and you see the letters between Jamshedji Tata and Dorabji Tata, unbelievable. This guy is saying Manchester and saying, we don't want the workers living in these hovels, we want a dispensary with big windows and there should be airy. This is for the workers who are going to work in his factories, right? Stakeholder capitalism, the Tatas created without giving it that term. All later, these big guys started to use the words. The Tata Trusts own 67% of Tata Sons.
Correct.
If you look at the structure they created, Ratan Tata died with 3,800 crores or 4,000 crores or so, and that through his own collections. Think of the number of people who totally outrank those kind of monies, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying that structurally, they really had an evolved way of thinking about this. If you really go out in India and say Tata, very few people are going to abuse them.
Correct.
It must be quite unique that you create this thing. Then you look at JRD Tata, Indian Institute of Science, set up by Tata. Their name is not even there. Prime Minister's Relief Fund, he gives 35 crores to Nehru. It says you need to create this the relief fund. He said, no, not for me, but for the nation. They have managed to instill stakeholder capitalism, a structure which has lasted 150, 60 years. It's the biggest conglomerate in India. So if I was to look away and say structurally, they have done a pretty remarkable job. Other than Tatas, which have really created a structure, the others are bespoke. They are fit for purpose. For their family, they have worked. I am biased. I like family businesses. I think they are the engines of India's growth. People don't recognize that. You take a sector, other than the government, the only people who have driven India's growth is family businesses. Not MNCs. They are engines of growth. They are very good employers. They don't sack people. When you look at COVID, who sacked and who didn't? In family businesses, you go up or you go sideways. When you're going sideways, if you're dealing with them, don't waste too much time there because that's a sideways person, Maybe not.
No, that's absolutely true, and that's the deep insight with a lot of others that we're taking today. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
doing
so
this,
much.
Janmay.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
How I got to know of Janmay is from a book called Untangling Conflict, which he co-authored and I picked up on a flight 2 years ago. It's one of the best reads on understanding the nuance of family businesses, and I decided I had to meet him. Highly recommend you check out his book, and see you again in another episode of Founder's Office with Sarthak Ahuja.